It's John Rothschild from safestwagering.net, and hopefully you've heard me on the radio. Maybe you bought one of my books. Recently I was on the Business Journal with Bill Clinton, although I don't think he knew I was in the Business Journal with them. In prior videos I've given you angles that, when used properly in specific situations at the right time of the season, can often cover 75% of the time. Today I want to do things a little bit differently. First, I'd like to tackle the major problem almost every gambler has in the long run. And then I'd like to talk about angles that many gamblers use that just don't work. Now, when Steve Wynn was interviewed by Lesley Stahl, she had actually asked him, she said, Steve, maybe she said Mr. Wynn, how many of your customers do you think leave your casino or your sports book with a profit? And he looked down and he thought for a second, and he looked up and he said none. Now here's some eye-opening stats. In any football season, less than 5% of those who wager during the entire season will show a profit. If you poll somebody who is leaving a racetrack, if they were to tell you the truth, less than 4 out of every 100 show a profit. Now let's talk about casinos. If you were to ask somebody at a casino how they did, they might say, well, I didn't really win. I didn't really lose. They might say, well, I broke even. Well, you know what? They lied. Now, you can make money, but you need to pick your spots. You need to focus and not wager on every sport. Now, a couple of examples, some angles that we use. A lot of these are in my first book, Rothschild's Guide to Football Handicapping. And some of the angles are incredibly simple, and some require a little more homework, but nothing that's too complicated. One works great for college. I call it Bowl Busters. And that's Bowl Busters. And that is that if a major or any college program loses its first game of the season, or loses a game that takes them out of major or anticipated bowl consideration, that team may win the next week, but no matter how good they are, they're not going to cover 75 to 80% of the time. Now here's a nice little angle that worked for us last week too, and it required a little more homework. And again, you don't need major marquee teams. This was UMass hosting, I think it was Ball State, and UMass always seems to be leading by halftime. They may not win the whole game, but they're always leading by halftime most of the time. And I wanted to see if, when they won the coin flip, if they decided to receive the football, which would give you a little more angle on a little more value on a halftime bet. Then I wanted to see what Ball State did. So it turns out that UMass, when they win the coin flip, almost always decided to receive the ball. Now Ball State was tough. Out of 9 games, believe it or not, they only won the coin flip once. And that one time, they deferred, which means they played they decided to take the defensive side first. So we thought that was a good angle. That's exactly what happened. Ball State did win the coin flip. They kicked off to Mass. Mass got the first 2 scores of the night, and they easily covered for us at halftime. Now, some angles that lots of handicappers use that just don't work. The first is that teams cover after a bye week. They may win more frequently after a bye week, but they don't cover. The next one is that teams traveling west to east, and I guess it sort of theoretically makes sense. You're losing 3 hours in the air, you're traveling to an airport, from an airport, you're checking into a hotel room. Those teams that travel west to east don't cover as frequently, and that is absolutely not the case. And because the public goes on that side so often, it's actually the opposite. Teams that travel from the west to the east actually do cover more often. And then the last angle or piece of knowledge that you need that wagers use all the time that just doesn't work, and these stats are found on almost every site, are trends. Trends are built into the line. They even out over time. They don't work, and that's why most trend handicappers don't make money. Now in our next video, we're going to talk about a couple of things. One is just a question I get asked all the time, is how I got into this business. I was a 18-year-old kid who got into med school, studied for an MBA, then started doing some other things, got into the horse business, and just made some great associations and learned to use statistics and angles to make a substantial profit. And then we're going to cover lots more angles that you can use almost every week to help you make some money. So hopefully I can transform your money, whether you transform your bankroll, whether you read one of my books, get insights from my videos, or let me steer you in the right direction. You can go to safestwagering.net. I can give you ideas on who's going to win for the week. You can email me with questions, whatever you want. So that's safestwagering.net. I'm John Rothschild, and I want to wish you the best this weekend.